Scandal,
Murder,
lore,
intrigue,
I'm Ravinia,
and I'm Lindsay.
and we're talking about the people and relationships.
That made for some scandalicious headlines across the country.
So come join the class.
We're here to give you the rundown. Today we're talking about one, I gotta use this background. Mr. Nick Viall. Ravinia is gonna lead this one because she knows all about him, and I only know like a tad bit. I never really watched The Bachelor, and I decided to watch it. I watched it for a couple seasons, and Nick was my first one. So that's really all I know about him. And I see him pop up on TikTok, and I'm just not interested. So I scroll past. So today we're gonna get learned on Nick Viall.
Okay. So let's start at the beginning. We have his early life. He was born September 28th, 1980, making him 42 years old as of today. He's a Libra sun, Gemini moon. Can you tell me anything about his sun placement and moon placement?
Yeah, so I'm better with sun signs than moon signs. But Libras, they're an air sign. So he's got a double air sign because Gemini is air as well.
That's right.
So he might be a little bit flighty, like maybe a lot flighty because you have two air signs in your big three. I wonder what his rising is.
Yeah.
That would be crazy if it was another air sign. But Libras tend to be really flirty. They love love. They're ruled by Venus, the planet of love. So
I see that.
I don't want to say it comes easy to them, but just like they need to be involved. They feel like I have a Libra moon, and I know in my birth chart it says like I feel more complete when I have a partner, and I feel like Libras crave that partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which would make sense. Like he's going on national television to find a partner. So he probably wants one real bad. And what else? Oh, they can't make a decision. Oh. And Geminis too I feel like they can't make a decision, but in a different way, like that there's just so many things that are going on in their mind that they want to do, as you know, because you're a Gemini.
Yeah.
So he's got it's like a representation of him on The Bachelor. So many women and wants all of them. And then his Libra sun, like he cannot make a decision.
Yeah. So. Super flirty, all that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's from Wisconsin, so he's a Midwestern boy. He's the second of 11 children. Wow. His family is of Catholic faith, which might explain all the children.
Makes sense.
And after he graduated college, he was living in Chicago as a software salesman, which
I can't imagine that. I don't know why.
I know.
Just like
Nick's calling you up, asking you, would you like software?
I know. Sales? I wonder if he was successful with that. I feel like he could. I feel like he has some sort of charm to him.
Yeah.
So
when he was working in Chicago, a friend had submitted him or nominated him to be on The Bachelor, which is when his Bachelor career began. And here's an overall timeline, and then we're going to get into the specifics of it. So we started off with Andy Dorfman season 10 to 2014. Then The Bachelorette season 11, 2015 with Caitlin Bristow. Then he's in Bachelor in Paradise season 3, 2016. And then he gets his own Bachelor season 21, 2017.
In a row, just bam,
consecutively and then on our TV screens.
And he didn't end up with anybody in any of these.
No, right. Truly.
My goodness.
A Libra. No, I don't know.
And just Gemini man moon, looking Gemini that up will probably, because Virgo men are so different than Virgo women. Tauruses, Aquarius, Matt, my husband, is a Aquarius, and one of my good friends is an Aquarius. She's a girl, and they're nothing alike, nothing alike. So I'm really curious, how the male fits into his Gemini.
Right. So when he was on Andy Dorfman season, he was 33 years old, which I noted that because usually everyone on the show is in their 20s. So he was kind of older.
He's old.
Yeah,
for the show,
to be on the show.
yeah It's the show has a Leonardo DiCaprio thing, you have to be this really young age,
a child, to be a participant. So he receives the first impression rose, which I have a clip of. Let's watch it.
Wow, so he made waves already.
Yes.
Take a seat over here.
And you said he didn't even want to be on the show, or like he didn't even nominate himself.
This is the first impression rose.
Wow.
And, you know, from when you stepped down in limo, I know you felt like you were so nervous, but you totally left like a lasting impression on me. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like such a sincerity and like so genuine. And I felt that. Like,
I'm blown away. Wow.
I know. And that's what's like so endearing about you. Like, you don't even see like how cute and sweet you are. And like,
it means a lot.
So with that being said, would you accept this first impression
absolutely.
rose?
With pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to give it to you.
I'm like ecstatic.
Are you?
Oh my God.
Oh,
good. Thanks so much. I'd say you made
I love that she just gives him like a hug and like a pat on the back. They don't kiss.
Yeah, is that weird that they didn't kiss? I mean, I know people kiss on the first night, but do they kiss for their first impression rose normally?
Well, okay, so in some of the more recent seasons, like night one, people are already making out.
Yeah.
But when you watch these earlier seasons, like in the 2010 eras, like people really don't kiss until they get like one-on-one dates, or like they're giving each other hugs like on the first night.
Yeah.
So
but he's also like so dorky. So I feel like she was probably like, I don't know. I feel like if he was more like suave and smooth, then he would go in for a kiss. But he's like, oh, thank you. Like, when he said my pleasure, I was like, he would be a perfect Chick-fil-A employee.
Oh yeah, that's right. They don't say you're welcome anymore.
Yeah, at least in my pleasure, but like
pleasure.
I could see him. Like he kind of reminds me, I feel like, of the Chick-fil-A employees that I see. I don't know.
I feel like she was trying to be subversive and picking him for her first impression rose, because later she ended up writing a book, which we'll get into, but she talks about how when she saw Josh Murray, she was like, he's my type. He's the one I want to pick. But she said that she really wanted to challenge herself to try to like push herself to not just pick the most obvious choice.
Yeah.
And like, and I feel like you could kind of see that. Like they don't have a whole lot of sexual tension between them. Like it's very much just like,
yeah. Yeah. He seems so shy.
Very shy. Okay, so he becomes the villain of his season, which is so funny because in the first clip we saw, he's like shy and awkward.
I know.
But he becomes a very confident man throughout the season, and probably like just like a little too cocky. And that's why just people were not like having it. They were just like tired of his shit, basically. So here's like a quick clip.
Now that makes me feel like that's how he always was, and he was like putting on an act when he first
being
got
like
there.
The shy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because how do you just change like that?
Is she the priority or the game? Talk way more about strategy than you do about Andy.
That's your opinion?
No, it's a fact.
I mean, we talk about.
Okay,
like,
let's go around the room. What does Nick talk more about, strategy or Andy?
Strategy.
All
Dude,
off camera.
What do you mean by like? I guess
like,
give me an example then.
Because
like,
I've had conversations with these guys.
That's great, but give me an example other than like.
I mean,
you can have a conversation.
The example is that I think everybody feels uncomfortable with the way you talk about strategy. I mean,
give me an example when you say talk about strategy.
No, I won't, because it's and I try to block it out. You literally go into it obsessively talking about what's going to happen next, what the next date card is going to be, who's going to be on the date card, how's it going to happen, what's going to happen, who's going to, and then now who's going to be the next bachelor. Those type of things are distasteful and things that disrespect the whole process, because we're here like trying to fall in love, not about working on some
He's trying to like
I don't
keep his edit
strategize.
clean.
And I know you'll interrupt because that's your whole MO, because you can't help but not hear yourself talk. It's awesome, and we all hate that, but it seems like you're more of a gamer and you're not here for the right reasons.
So let me ask this.
Sure.
Was it on recording, like on film, when he has talked about strategy and stuff?
No.
Because I see he's sitting there and he's bundled up. That's like an insecure thing to me. Like it's like when someone like crosses their arms. So, but then, and so I was like, maybe he's like actually really insecure. It's just me being a Virgo analyzing him.
The body language.
Yeah. And so I was like, maybe he's actually really insecure. And like, but then I was like, wait, he seems like he's trying to look all innocent for the camera, which
Like,
could be a strategy.
Even the picture right here, he has the hands in the pockets. He's got the head down, all droopy.
He's got a big scarf, and he's just like, he looks like he's freezing cold. And
so I'm like, clearly it's not. I mean, look at the other guys; they're fine.
Yeah. They're in a hotel room. It's, you know,
temperature controlled.
Yeah. And I thought at first, I was like, maybe he's like insecure, but then I was like, wait, if this like strategy talk is on film a lot, then I'm like, well, maybe he's insecure. But then I'm like, well, if it's not on film a lot and he's been saying it behind the scenes, then I think these guys are correct in saying that he is worried about the strategy. I'm sure, he likes her, but like, he's like, no. And I mean, his strategy worked because he was on so many seasons and now he's like a, C-list celebrity influencer, whatever, like whatever reality stars are.
Right.
Like he's up there in that world.
Too, because like he was trying to pass off like I didn't even want to come. Like my friend asked me to come here. And
I wonder if that's a lie. I wonder if that's true.
I know. I've questioned that too. But yeah, we have no confirmation on that. The other thing I really love is when Chris Soules, he's like telling him all that, and Nick was like, "Can you give me a specific example?" He's like, "No, I won't." But then he ends up coming up with something, and he's like, "Well, you talk strategy," which I think was fair, and I think he probably did. So Josh Murray ends up winning the season. Nick comes in second place. And he doesn't get to pick out a ring. So like it's kind of a tradition that the night before the proposals, Neil Lane comes and the guys get to look at several rings. It's like an honored tradition that the men get to do, and they get to pick out a ring and look at them and they pick one out. Nick didn't get to do that. Andy showed up to his room before he could ever get to do that, and she told him like, sorry, it's not you. And he left, and he had saved all his like little boutonniere roses, and he like threw them in the trash. And you see that, and like the camera like zooms in on it. It's like so,
and he's so pissed.
He's like, I'm mad at you.
So
when he got dismissed from Andy, I'm just gonna show a small clip of it. I'm not gonna show the whole thing because the quality's not that great and you can't really hear anyways. But basically when he got dismissed from Andy, they sent him home, and he's on the airplane home after being dismissed, and he's talking on the phone with a friend rather loudly, and he ends up spoiling his season because this person like films him and then sends it into Reality Steve. Reality Steve, for those who might not know, is like a guy who reports on the Bachelor gossip and usually spoils the season. Like he always usually knows the ending.
Yeah, if you want to know the ending, like you can look at his stuff up. My friend used to always do that. I'm like, what? You're taking all the fun out of it. But I think it's fun for people to like know the end and then like watch it as it goes and everything.
As it unfolds. Yeah. So there's this clip, and
so he's talking about he just got kicked off,
and he's bitching to a friend. We don't know who.
What?
He's munching away. I know. I'm gonna stop it here because you really can't hear that well. But like, I always joke like to myself because I talk to you on the phone a lot, and I'm like eating, and I'm always so self-conscious about it. And he's just like eating away, no problem. He's like. But one of the notable things he's doing on the phone call is he's saying like, hey, there was a season with this guy named Jason Mesnick. He picked his final girl, but when it came time to after the final rose, he changed his mind and picked his runner-up. So he's saying to his friend, like, what if that happens to me?
Oh, yeah. He probably was really pissed when she turned him down because he probably really thought. I was like, well, maybe he doesn't care because I feel like some people go on it just for the fame. So they're like, even if I don't get with him, like, I'm still going to be famous. But he probably thought, I think he's like really cocky.
Yeah. No, he's a very cocky individual.
But like he comes off as like shy and sweet and nice, and it's like, no.
It couldn't be further from the truth.
Oh
yeah,
my
no.
God. That's why I need to know his rising sign, because that's like the rising sign. It's probably Cancer or something, like so sweet.
And then we need to ask him one day.
His Gemini moon's like, This is who I really am.
Well, him saying all that makes me feel like maybe he really did like Andy, because like he was holding out hope. He's like,
yeah,
pick me after all.
he thought he was gonna win, and he wanted to win, and yeah, so he's still being cocky, being like, well, yeah, it's happened before where they've changed their minds, so that's probably gonna happen with me.
I wish I had his confidence. The minute I'm rejected by someone, I'm like, my life's over. He's like, it still might be me.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god, I'm a horrible person, I'm ugly, everyone hates me, and he's like, it's probably still gonna be me.
The confidence of a white man, I swear to God. Okay.
I know. Oh, I know.
So after the final rose, that's when the final couple gets to come out on stage, for those who don't know, and they get to be presented as a couple finally, and they get to talk a little more intimately about their journey and all that. But notably, it's also a chance for the runner-up to kind of confront the lead and be like, why didn't you pick me? So this became very Scandalicious, right? A nod to our title. Nick told Andy, if you weren't in love with me, then why did you make love to me? And I watched it live when it was airing, and like the audience literally like goes like, yeah, because couples in the show, they go into the fantasy suite, but it's like, it doesn't mean that they're having sex necessarily. Like, that's not a given. There's couples who go in there and they don't end up having sex. But because cameras are not there on the fantasy suites, people just like make assumptions on whether they had sex or not. But this was Nick saying like, no, you did have sex with me, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows it. So,
yeah, and I wonder if she didn't want people to know that, and didn't want Jason, is that his name, the guy she picked?
Josh.
I wonder if she didn't want him to know.
Well, okay, so funny
or
enough,
anybody to know, you know what I mean? Like her fucking grandma.
Like most people wouldn't want to know. It's like you wouldn't want people to know your private life. It's like
he's cocky, and he's like, I'm gonna lay it all out.
I kind of feel like he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna get the last word in. Like, you dumped me, but I'm gonna like humiliate you. That's what I think. I'm not sure. He has claimed later that he just was like upset because Chris Harrison asked Andy point blank, were you ever in love with Nick, while he was sitting next to her, and she said no. And I think that triggered him, and he's like, no, you were in love with me, and I'm gonna like make sure that everybody knows that you were actually in love with me, even though she said no. So, and Andy explains herself in her book. So she wrote her book, and she says that when her and Nick were in the fantasy suite, that Nick, she describes it, and I feel like I could see it in full detail, and it was so disturbing to read. So she says that Nick's like fully naked on top of her, and that he's like, do you want to fuck or do you want to make love?
Ew.
And that she said make love. So I think
I would be like, nothing now. This is weird.
She said that she was really turned off when he said that.
Yeah.
She said that he said that and she cringed.
You know what? I wonder if that sealed the deal. She was like, it's not you. Because honestly, if like what he thought, typical guy fashion, oh, this will be a good thing to say. Like, I'll, because he probably wanted to make love, but he was like going to ask her when she thought, like, that takes like the romance out of everything.
Right.
You know, like, I feel like if I were her, that would severely make me like super unattractive and like untrustworthy of him too.
It's
like
just disgusting.
We are going to maybe get engaged. Like, what do you mean?
Why are you talking like that?
Yeah. What do you mean? Do you just want to fuck? Like, what the fuck?
I really, God, it's so funny because now I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but we'll get to it in detail. He has a podcast now, and he always has people like opens so that people can write questions for him to answer. I have tried to send in a question to him, and he has never answered. And I've always asked him, why did you tell Andy Dorfman if she wanted to fuck or make love? Like, what was your thought process?
I know. We really need to know. I think he thought he was like doing something like romantic in a way, and
like sexy or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not explaining it well. I don't know. Like he knew he wanted to make love and he wanted her to say that too. But it's like she didn't know that he was thinking that.
Okay.
You know? I don't know.
Yeah, because there was still another guy there. You know what I mean? Like there's still one other guy, so he didn't know if he was going to be the final pick or not.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he was like trying to test her. If it was like, is it going to be me? Like, does she want to fuck me or make love? If she wants to make love, then
yeah, but it's
me.
like she's the one holding the cards. She's making a decision, and you just fucked up. You just
typical man. The woman's in charge, but he still thinks he's like pulling the string.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so funny enough, also Andy talks about how when her and Josh got engaged, she did not initially tell Josh that she had sex with Nick.
Okay.
She says that later in their relationship, because Josh and Nick didn't get along during her season, they weren't like mortal enemies, but they just didn't get along that well. Mm-hmm. Well, like you saw in the clip, nobody really liked him.
Yeah.
So he basically tells her one day, because he starts getting really toxic. Josh, he's like a whole thing on his own. He was kind of psycho and was getting really possessive of her. And he tells her, like, if you had sex with him, it's over. And he's like, I need you to tell me right now. And she tells him the truth. And she's like, I did have sex with him. And she said that he was really mad at her for a while, but he was able to forgive her. And he's like, as long as nobody knows it, as long as it's just us and nobody knows, then fine. What does Nick Viall do?
Yep. Yeah.
Decides to tell everyone because he's a narcissist, truly.
Yeah. Yep. Everyone in the whole wide world.
I mean, he was like, I will not be forgotten, which honestly, I probably would have done the same. I'm messy. So here I am judging Nick, but it's like, yeah, I probably would have done the same.
That Gemini. I feel like a lot of Geminis are messy. It's just in your DNA, and it's okay.
In my blood.
Yeah.
So yeah, just really quickly, Andy does talk about how toxic her relationship with Josh got. Before, like a little bit before they broke up, she started telling friends and family, if I end up dead, he probably did it. Because he had really bad anger issues.
He looks so sweet.
Yeah, like I would not physical, but he was very psycho. Very psycho. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I don't know, maybe Nick was the better choice.
I know.
Okay, so fast forwarding to the next bachelorette. Nick, he loves to collect his bachelorettes. So the next bachelorette is announced. It is Caitlin Bristow. And before she was officially announced, she was in talks of being a bachelorette possibly. And he slides into her DMs on Twitter. They get really close. They start FaceTiming each other and calling each other and texting each other. And she starts having like a genuine crush on him, but she didn't know she was going to be the bachelorette officially. She becomes the bachelorette. And she has said later that she was hoping that Nick would show up and be on her season and like come out of the limo. But the first day arrives, he's not there and he's not in any of the limos. So she was like, okay, I guess that's done. Whatever. Well, he shows up on week 3 or week 4.
Why do you think he did that? Was it the producers deciding, or?
No, you know what's funny is he's never officially said why he showed up late. At least not to my knowledge. I think it might have been a combination of like producers, and then it might have also been he wasn't sure. I think he was trying to maybe get the nerve to do it.
Oh,
you know,
I wonder if producers if they knew about it, it does give the other guys a more fair chance, but it's still not fair that he's on the season at all.
You know, there had been instances before Nick where people who had been on previous seasons show up for a new person, and there had been instances after him as well. So he wasn't the first to do it, but he was the first to do it successfully, because other people have done it and they don't stay or they don't make a significant dent in the season, but he did. Caitlin really liked him. And yet again, here we go. Nick, the villain 2.0 again. He shows up late, and he at this point has the reputation for telling the world that he had sex with Andy. And then also, you know, he went pretty far on Andy's season. So he shows up and the guys do not like it. And then they also, you know, find out that he was talking to Caitlyn previous. Here's a clip. This is also like one of my favorite shots ever coming up right here.
Very unwelcome.
Like, this is reality TV gold right here. So Nick is showing up. He's going to be introduced to the rest of the cast for the first time right here. He's got his suitcase. He's ready.
What's up, guys?
They're like,
What's up?
no,
Yeah.
Boom. All the guys are on one side. Like, you know, the producers set this up, but I don't care. It looks amazing. Like that right there. Put in a museum.
We'd like you to start.
I guess I'll just keep it real simple. You know, I'm not here to cause drama. I'm not here to create a scene. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I actually kind of dig this girl from the little bit I know, and I'd like to get to know her a little bit more.
I guess the question I had was your truest intentions. I mean, we just want to make sure you're not here chasing your 16th minute of fame. I mean, we've all read the tabloids. We heard that maybe you and Andy hung out a few weeks ago,
Sure.
and so on and so forth. So, post maybe night one.
And I wish I would have done it night one. I mean, I wouldn't have to be doing this, right? I would have had hopefully a little bit more time than I'm gonna have if I stick around at all.
So you weren't hanging out with Andy 3, 4, 5, however many weeks ago?
This
No, I ran
guy,
into Andy a
that
couple weeks
guy,
ago.
Tanner,
She was in
this one,
town,
he's such
and
an instigator. I
we
love
met up
it.
shortly and kind of, you know, bury the hatchet, so to speak. You know,
You're just ready for the next Bachelorette? I mean, we're going to come back next year if it didn't work out with Caitlyn, too?
not my plan.
It seems weird when you're hanging out with Andy a month ago. Okay,
Listen,
things didn't work out there. Hold on, things didn't work out there. Now, okay, let's go hang out with Caitlyn.
Cool.
It just seems odd. It seems like, you know, there's lots of girls out there, right?
Yeah, I know. I get
Plenty
it.
of connections. So
I'm sure you appreciate it. Like, Caitlin's a pretty cool chick, you know. And
There we go.
Yeah, those guys saw right through him.
So what are your thoughts so far on Nick?
That he's in it for the fame. He is not here for the right reasons.
He's pretty
That's what I
calculated, I think,
Yeah.
genuinely.
He's playing the
Genuinely.
game. Yeah.
He's such a game player. Okay, so the scandalicious thing that Nick did on Caitlyn Bristow's season was he had sex with her
Before
the fantasy,
fantasy
suite. Yeah.
suite.
The fantasy suites make it possible for the couple to have sex without the audience knowing. It's
Yeah.
like a little protection shield because there's no cameras, nothing. If for some reason you decide to have sex prior to the fantasy suites, it's like fair game. They're gonna bring cameras in, they're gonna have audio, which is disgusting, but they
Oh God.
they did do that. And I'm just like, what is it about this man? What is it about this man
Yeah.
that makes him irresistible? Bachelor.
I know. Because if I was on The Bachelor and he was on it, I'd be like, bye.
You would
I don't
just
find
use
him
on your
attractive at
season.
all. And he's really not conventionally attractive. Like,
No, he's not.
You
But you know
know?
what's something I've noticed about him, because I've, in preparation for this video, I like watched a lot of interviews, like right here, like in the moment interviews of the Bachelorettes, like Andy and Caitlyn, and both of them say the same thing, that he made them feel like a woman, like a desired woman. And I just think that's interesting. They said the exact same thing about him,
wow.
that they made him, he made them feel like a desired woman.
You make me feel like a
natural woman. That's what Nick does.
Wow.
Apparently. Here's a
Can't
clip.
see it, but okay.
Do you want to go back to my hotel and hang out for a bit?
Yeah.
Look at his face.
All right.
No. Do you
Yeah.
want
He's
to?
getting laid. He's like, whoa.
I just
Getting
get
like a
caught up
boy right
in
there.
this
I
world
love
when
it.
I'm
It's
with
so
Nick.
funny.
It's just, I'm caught up in something that I'm not really used to, and I don't really understand.
I just don't see the lore.
What is
Maybe
it?
it's just like an
see.
in-person thing. I don't know.
Yeah. You have to meet
I'm
him
not
in
happy
person.
at all that Nick has
That's
a
the guy who
one-on-one with
wins,
Caitlyn right now.
Sean.
Okay.
It's just very tough to see a guy that I have concerns
See, look
about
at him.
going
Look at
out
the
with a
body
girl
language.
that I have very strong
I guess it's
feelings
maybe
for.
like the way he looks. He's very tentative. I'm not really sure. Or not tentative. He's attentive. That's what I meant to say.
But it's like, what? I wonder what makes it that he doesn't win. You know, at the end, the girls are like, nope.
I mean, look what the alternative
knows what to
is.
do.
Like hot, hunky,
Yeah.
burly man.
But like, she wants to hook up with him more than she wants to hook up with any other guy right now. She's dating all like.
I mean, I know I keep.
He's
going
like
back
the
to
front
it, but
runner in the beginning, and then
you just gotta trust Caitlyn.
he doesn't win. There's
Both
something
instances.
about it. Yeah.
Both instances, yeah.
I think maybe that a lot of the girls think that he's just a fun time, but he's not marriage material.
Right. For a while, people were calling him Good Luck Chuck. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, where like, for those who don't know, like the guy has sex with the girl, and then like the first guy who she dates after having sex with him is the guy she marries.
Yeah.
So people are calling him a Good Luck Chuck for a while.
Yeah.
Not a nice name, but you know. So Nick, Mr. Viall, was a runner-up yet again, and he loses out to Sean. I don't, as to why he loses every time, I don't really know. But he became so on his first season with Andy, he was kind of rivals with Josh, but Josh sort of just tolerated him. Him and Sean were truly enemies. And here's they have multiple arguments, but here's just a small clip of one of them.
I just want to get what I've been feeling off my chest, because I don't want to be the guy talking behind your back like a lot of the other guys have, and not be man enough to say it to your face. So that's why I'm here. I don't understand your reasons for being here for Caitlyn. I truly don't think that's the only reason why you're here. And obviously, I care about Caitlyn a lot, and I think if she's seen the side that we all have seen, you probably want to be here, and there'd be a better guy sitting in your chair right now. Because there's a lot of good guys that went home, and...
I love
well, with all due respect, you have no... I mean, you can say whatever you want, but you don't know me, you don't know why I'm here. You haven't spent any time trying to get to know me.
Because I don't want to. You're manipulative, you're arrogant, you're just a cocky guy.
I can say the same thing about you.
If Caitlyn does end up with you, at the end of this thing, I'm gonna sleep fine, because me and you, I know who I am, I know who you are, and we're completely different guys. And if that's what she wants, then, you know what, I can sleep fine, because then me and her weren't meant to be together.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I think you're
okay.
I don't think you're here just for Caitlyn. I think you have other reasons of being here.
And those are what? Based off like my actions since I left?
Your reputation from last season? You think it's a coincidence that there's probably been 40 guys between the last 2 seasons?
What do you make of Nick's body language this time around?
It's a generalization. Obviously, I did not expect you to understand and look at it like this, because maybe you're just so oblivious, and maybe you just don't give a
You don't see
I know he's sitting more like open.
Yeah.
He's very confident. I think he's just like owning it, and just, I don't know. I think these girls, I think Andy and Caitlyn saw that at the end. He was more like a fun time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that hot guy who you don't have a future with, and you're just like having fun with. And then, when it comes to making that decision, you're like,
the real one.
Like, and I bet you these girls wish that he was marriage material, but they just knew he wasn't. Like,
no. So, okay. So what ends up happening in Caitlyn's season, she has sex with Nick, as we mentioned before, the fantasy suites. The other contestants don't know. She keeps it from them for a little bit, but then at some point she comes to terms with the fact that Sean is probably the one that she wants to pick. So she tells him while the show is still airing, not after. So she tells him on camera, and he does not take it very well. And she actually went on to say that it was a big issue in their relationship for pretty much the entirety of their relationship. Like, he never fully got over it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know, Mr. Nick ruining relationships left and right. So we fast forward to his run on Bachelor in Paradise season 3. People were excited because he was going to be reuniting with Josh on this season. People were like, ooh, let's see what happens. So Josh wasn't in the first round of people. Nick and Amanda were. So Nick liked Amanda, started dating Amanda. Josh comes in like the second week, steals Amanda, and she's basically completely over Nick. And Amanda and Josh get engaged.
Oh my God.
So
are they still together or no?
Oh God, no. Like Josh. So this is okay. during the filming of Bachelor in Paradise season 3, Andy Dorfman's book was like released shortly before the season began. So people were reading shit about Josh and like all the creepy stuff that he would do. The book is mostly, it talks about Nick, but it mostly focuses on her relationship like with Josh post filming.
Wow.
So there was like all this crazy shit being written about him, and Nick at one point goes to Amanda's like, hey, if you choose Josh, like that's fine. I just want to let you know Andy wrote a book. She says some really salacious stuff or scandalicious stuff about Josh, and you should just keep it in mind. And she's just like, okay. And then like gets engaged with him. And then they break up. She ends up writing a book about dating Josh.
Oh my God.
And hers, I think, is arguably worse than Andy's. Because
like
she
he was worse to her.
Yeah, she was with him for longer.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I think she put up with his antics more than Andy did. Andy wasn't even engaged to him for like a year. They were like engaged for 6 months. And she was with him for like, I think a year maybe. And they lived together too. And she didn't live with Josh, Andy.
Wow.
So she had more to say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they get into fights. There's a couple of arguments. I have links, but honestly, it's just them, like Nick and Josh going in at it, bickering at each other and drudging up like the past. And Josh is like, you're the same, man. He's like, you're just the same. You're always trying to instigate fights. And Nick's like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm a good guy.
Nick stirs the pot and then he's like, oh, I didn't do it. And then he just watches.
So Nick ends up with Jen Saviano. Jen Saviano was someone that he was talking to before he got onto Bachelor. I know this is like something that he does a lot. He had slid into her DMs before he got on the season, Bachelor in Paradise. And they had been kind of dating. Then he goes on the show, she goes on. They end up like leaving together as a couple, but they don't get engaged. So they leave as a couple. They're continuing to date post Bachelor in Paradise, but then he gets the phone call to become the Bachelor, and he ends up taking it and kind of just leaves Jen in the dust, in the wind. And
yeah, because that was the goal, to be the Bachelor.
He was like, bye, Jen. So he's announced, and fans are not happy. And
I remember this, that people were not happy, and I was like, I don't know who this person is, but
Hi, how are you?
Here's a clip.
I'm a huge fan. But Ashley here, I don't know. I wasn't excited when you were in, so.
Well, I am sorry.
My family always hated you, and my friends always hated you. We hated you during Andy's season.
Okay.
And
like a lot. Like a scale of 1 to 10.
Like a 9.
Is this going to work?
Basically, I just don't like you.
Okay, no, that's fair. Sometimes I don't like me.
All right.
He's been.
You got this.
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, Taylor.
Taylor.
I know she became a problematic person too.
So excited.
Yeah, she became a villain.
Before coming, all my girlfriends were like, "No, he's a complete piece of."
She's so stupid. Why would you? He's like, okay. Yeah, so fans weren't happy. But you know, people came around. At least from my opinion, I think the show decided to pick him because he was so controversial. He was someone who had been on like 2 Bachelorette seasons, notably had sex with both of them. And then he had like a rivalry on Bachelor in Paradise with Josh. And they're like, we should give this guy his own season. Like, I bet people will watch. And I mean, they were right. I mean, he was controversial, but people were intrigued. I will say that.
Yeah. And the producers love the drama. So
yeah. It brings in ratings. But like I said, he has a podcast now, and he's reflected a little bit about his time on The Bachelor. And I think he's a little bit of a narcissist, and he's gone as far to say that he feels like he kind of co-produced his season. Like he was making suggestions, and that he did a lot of acting on his season, and that he was like helping the show be as entertaining as possible.
And he's in it for the game, the strategy from the very beginning. All those guys saw that, and there's so many
and they
people
were right.
thinking the same thing. Yep,
they were right.
They were very right.
So he notes himself as kind of being a co-producer of his own season, and he takes credit.
Like, I ran this season. You would do nothing without me.
Yeah, he basically says that, and he takes credit for giving the first impression rose to the first ever Black contestant, which was Rachel Lindsay. And he's like, I did that knowing, you know, that it was going to be important. I'm like, bitch, even if this stuff is true, like maybe keep that to yourself. Like, it doesn't look good to announce all of that out loud. Like, you know, like keep it in the drafts, as people say. Like, you know?
And just like another, like, we don't need white men to like be the person to
the white savior.
Yeah, like he's got like the savior complex. It's no, and everyone loves her. Like she deserves it because she amazing.
Him, you know. Yeah. So Corinne Olympios becomes the villain of his season. And you know, it's funny because she was a villain and he was a villain. Yeah. He ended up having like a lot of empathy for her and like played into her antics a lot. And he admits this like later on his podcast, he's admitted it that like he knew it was good TV, you know, to like play into her antics. And he also sympathized with her because he was a villain on his seasons. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm going to like play into her games. So here's like a small clip of
I have something up my sleeves to make him feel special today.
The bouncy house, the infamous bouncy house.
I feel like they had sex. And no one knows
that they didn't, but
what are we doing?
Oh my god, look at her.
This is amazing.
I love how fun and playful Corinne is.
I'm
lucky enough to end up with someone for the rest of my life. I hope she's always fun and playful.
How are you?
That's a big reason why I'm spending a lot of time with Corinne, because I think fun is a great foundation of any.
According to him, like I said,
so
he's producing his season.
He said he didn't want to get in the bouncy house. Who doesn't want to get in the bouncy house?
I don't know. I think he has revisionist history. I really do.
Yeah. Like, I just got in for the show.
I just did.
Like, oh, thank you so much for jumping and having fun in a bouncy
How
house. Thank you so much.
You really took one for the team, Nick. You got in a bouncy house with a hot blonde. Oh my god!
Whose boobs are popping? Yeah, whose boobs are popping out? Like, oh my god, you poor thing.
He struggled for all of us, truly, truly.
So
he ends up picking Vanessa Grimaldi. And they were a couple for 5 whole months.
So happy about it.
Yeah, you know, it was so funny because everyone usually likes to live tweet as they're watching The Bachelor, and people really tune in. If they're not watching throughout the season, they'll usually tune in for after the final rose, where they get to see the couple finally. And people were all like, oh my god, they look like Peta and Katniss, like when they were trying to pretend to be a couple, like to the Capitol. Like they don't look happy. That's like the thing. But people were like, you didn't give us like a good ending, Nick, for all that producing that you did on your season.
What the hell?
We didn't get a happy ending. People want a happy ending, even if you end up breaking up in 5 months. The audience doesn't care. We want to see a happy couple at the end. So he ends his reign as the Bachelor on the show. Finally, he's done. So he gets invited to go on Dancing with the Stars. He gets 6th place. I included a clip of my favorite dance that he did. Here's a picture of it. So it's tradition, like every season of Dancing with the Star, they have like a Disney week, and they assign the dancers like Disney characters, and they'll dance to like a big Disney number. And usually people are always hoping that they get like favorable characters like princesses or princes. Nick got Pinocchio, if you cannot tell from the picture here. He was really pissed off about it because they made him shave his beard, which he looks really bad without a beard. I will agree with him. He looks better with a beard. He really does.
Yeah.
And I wanted to include this too, because you and I are both dancers. We grew up being like in recitals and shit and wearing like awful costumes that we hate, but you sell it. That's just, Nick should know this. He's
exactly. I was just going to say that. He should be good at this. Oh,
he says he's an actor and he knew how to sell his season. Well, tell me, Lindsay, how you think he sold on this performance.
What? You look amazing.
They made him the liar, Pinocchio.
I love that's so shady that they did that. They didn't give him a prince or nothing. I got to die.
To make me fret or make me frown. I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me.
He's like, yeah.
The soul leaves the eyes.
I want the world to know nothing ever worries me.
Mad to me.
I got no strings, so I have fun. I'm not tied up to anyone. They got strings, but you can't see there are no strings on me.
Like, look at his professional coach. She's selling the shit out of it.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a dumb number. Nobody wants to do it, but you have to. He like flung her body.
Neck and feet up.
I know. He's like, I just want to get this over with.
So what'd you think?
Speed up. I mean, he was definitely decent. Like, I feel like he has rhythm. Like, I've seen people that are so bad. But he looked like you could tell he was just like concentrating on all the steps. Like,
yeah,
okay, now I have to go here, now I have to do this.
It did look like he was counting steps for sure.
Yeah.
And he just looked so uncomfortable. It looked like he hated his life.
Yeah. He was like, God, I gotta do this for the fame.
Hilarious.
Do this for the
So after his time on Dancing with the Stars, this is when Nick tries his hand at becoming a real celebrity.
And that was his goal all along.
Yes. So he had started sort of like an amateur acting career. This is like a screenshot of his IMDb page. He just had small cameos. He didn't have anything like notable to his resume. I mean, like, good for him. I mean, like, anything is like an accomplishment. I'm not saying it's not, but he doesn't have like a big resume. And also, I've seen some of his acting. It's not good. It's like, I'm not just saying that because I'm not a fan, but like, truly, it's not good. So when he realized he wasn't getting the roles that he wanted, that's when he pivoted to being a podcaster, and that's when he really like started getting involved in the LA scene, and really started trying to hang out with some celebrities. The most notable one is this time with January Jones. Here's like a small clip.
Troubled times. You both have something in common. You both enjoy watching reality television. January, if you had to be on a reality TV show, which would you choose?
The Bachelorette.
Would you?
My daughter
I'm
works on that show.
Now.
Does your daughter?
My daughter is working on that show now. Yeah.
No, because I asked my public. You watch the show, have a couple of glasses of wine. Ben gets kicked off, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the next Bachelorette and get that guy.
Oh.
And then she says it would ruin my career, and I get shot down. But that's my dream.
Your dream is to be on the Bachelorette. But I reckon, I mean, you must be able to date Ben anyway, no?
No, I don't.
Really?
I don't. Maybe.
Ben Higgins?
Yeah.
I mean, would you want to date Ben?
Yeah.
If Ben was watching this now, if Ben from The Bachelor was watching this now,
hit him up.
Would you want him to call you?
I have a blocked number, so he wouldn't know. I mean, yes, sure.
Well, Ben, if you're watching, there you go. I mean,
dumb.
we could make this happen. I feel like this could happen. Hang on. If your daughter works on the show, she'll have access to his phone number.
That's sort of might be true.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pause it there. So she ends up making a second appearance in the James Corden show. I won't show the clip, but basically she ends up talking about Nick again. And she says that Nick had reached out to like her publicist or something like that and was like, do you remember the celebrity lip sync battle show? I don't know if it's still going. They would get like
oh yeah. I know what you mean. I know which one.
Yeah, they would get celebrities and they would like lip sync to songs and like battle each other. Well, he was trying to make an episode because I think Nick had seen this episode of her saying that she liked Nick or, whatever, or liked watching The Bachelor. So he was like can you make it so that January and I go on lip sync battle and battle each other for an episode?
But she was saying in that interview that she liked Ben.
Yeah, she was saying she liked Ben. I think I cut it off.
She also liked Nick.
I guess I cut it off, but like, sorry, it's because I can't hear the audio on my end.
Oh.
So, but basically, like at the end of the clip, she says that she likes Nick.
Okay.
So she's kind of messy too, if I'm being honest with you. I'm like, girl, don't be announcing that shit. Like, you have a career like to think about.
Yeah. You're actually like famous and have a job that you're like good at, like
don't
being
be
on
messing
reality
around
TV
with these fucking reality TV boys. Like, girl, please. So yeah, and then Brie Larson, she talks about how Nick sort of incidentally ended up going to her house because he was friends of a friend of hers and all this stuff. So this is what I'm saying. Like, Nick was making multiple plays to getting involved with real life celebrities. And he was also friends with Rachel Bilson. He was friends with Rumor Willis. The guy was making moves. Like, his scheming did not end on The Bachelor. Like, no.
Yeah.
No way, Jose. So he starts his life as the podcaster. This is when his podcast is really starting to take off. Like I said, the beginning of his podcast really started off as like an advice podcast, a relationship advice podcast. Can you believe that?
God. Yeah.
This
No,
man
I
is
can't believe it, but-
qualified, according to him.
Yeah, no.
I really do not like his relationship advice that he gives. It's like, it's always advice that he's giving women, and it's like, I don't know.
Of course.
I don't like it. I really, really, truly rubs me the wrong way. So he really did try, I think, in the beginning to make his podcast not about The Bachelor. I think he wanted to be seen as somebody not super associated with it, but then he realized that the only way that he really gets viewership is when he talks about his time on The Bachelor or when he recaps The Bachelor. So he's kind of leaned into it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's like, that's what you're known for, dude. Like,
and that's when I would send him questions. I've tried multiple times to send him questions like, why did you tell Andy Dorfman you wanted to fuck or make love? I have tried many.
Did you think you were doing something romantic there, or
I don't know? He's
what
such
were
a
you
schemer.
doing?
I really want to know, like, what was the thought process behind that?
I know. Yeah,
I think he really thought he was catching her. He was like, if she says she wants to make love, then that means I'm the final.
Yeah, true. That's also true. Like, he could, he was like, oh, this is how I'm figuring out if you are going to pick me or not. And then he thought she was going to pick her because she said, make love. And then she was like, nope, sorry.
She said she was so creeped out and like cringed out when he said
I'm telling you, I
that.
think that messed up his chances. He probably was still like equal with the other guy. And that he said that and she was like, oh, you're not the one.
So his podcast, in my opinion, he's also used it as a way to air out his grievances and act a fool, as I have written right here on my notes. I have found this clip.
He needs to have the last word.
I have found this clip. Oh, you're right. Actually, yes. This is like him always trying to get the last word. No, I love that you said that. It's so true. This is my favorite clip of all time of Nick. And I saved it and I found it just for you. It is so good, and we're watching it in its entirety. We're not cutting it off.
Have not been the best. Like, it's been a rocky road.
Or like, no one's liked their Bachelor literally since me, and I was polarizing, But like, I get that all the time where people
liked Matt James, right?
Not as the Bachelor, no. They liked the people who are fans of Tyler, and there was a lot of those fans who followed the crew and if and Matt James had a couple 100,000 followers at the time, because of his buddy Tyler, sure, like those people got excited, and obviously being the first Black Bachelor, that was a monumental and wonderful, like, step in the right direction for the franchise after like years of not doing that. But all that aside, when his season started airing, people...
I think you're right. People liked him, but maybe not as the Bachelor.
Yeah,
people loved him.
I remember like the first night, the first episode of Matt's season. I was so excited.
It was all downhill.
And then I was like, oh no,
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's never been in love.
It was all but even like like my season, like I've talked about like the bouncy castle with Corinne, like that was
thoughts.
So he's saying that people loved him as the Bachelor and everyone after him they have not liked. That's what he's saying.
Then he's been the last Bachelor. By the way, did you like how I titled it?
The cockiness.
Hold on. Nick is the best, according to Nick.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah, dude, the cockiness. Are you serious? People didn't like him as the Bachelor before it aired, while it aired,
or after. And that's so funny. Like, I'm so glad that we're doing this episode now, because that was recent. That was like a couple weeks ago that he said that. And I love it because
that's what he thinks in his mind.
I literally pulled up the receipts where fans are confronting him and calling him an ass, like literally an asshole to his face. I will give him this. I think he was a controversial Bachelor, and I thought it got people watching, but so was Colton. Colton was a very controversial Bachelor as well. And Nick is not the most followed male on the show. To have been on the show. Colton actually has the most followers from the males on Instagram.
Oh, wow. I feel like Ben Higgins was very popular.
Yeah, but Ben was before him. So if we're saying, if we're giving into his argument, which is no one has been as interesting or has liked their Bachelor since me, I don't think that's true.
No one has been as interesting as me.
And even if you say that, even if you think that, why say it out loud, Nick?
I know.
I love the reaction from like the co-hosts and stuff. They were just like, well, there was like Matt James and there was like other people. They seemed like they were cringing too. It's like the Andy Dorfman thing all over again. People are cringing by the shit that he says. It's like, dude, bye. So he made a Patreon for his podcast, and on his Patreon, he interviewed like almost all the women that were on his season on The Bachelor. On there, he spills a lot of tea. That's where he talked about being basically a producer on his season, and that he acted a lot of the scenes on his season and was just like being fucking messy. I'm just like, dude, you're embarrassing. Like, truly. So now we're fast forwarding to now. This is modern times. So he is engaged. He just recently got engaged like a couple of weeks ago to Natalie Joy. She is 23 years old. Nick, like I said, is 41. They have an 18-year age gap.
Wow.
Thoughts?
Looks like a teenager.
Yeah.
She just was a teenager.
She looks like
a couple years ago.
Well, their 18-year age gap, I always think to myself, I'm like, you were 18 years old, freshman in college, she was born.
Yeah.
I tried to contextualize it like that.
Yeah, because it's like,
what are your thoughts on like age gaps? Like, do you have like a rule in your head?
No. Well, if I had any sort of rule, I feel like when you reach your 30s, the age gap, like both people above 30, I feel like the age gap isn't as big of a deal, but like you're in your 20s and then someone is in their 40s or above, or like maybe late 30s and you're in early 20s. Like, I just feel like, you know, obviously being 18 and 19 and then all of your 20s, like your frontal lobe's still developing, you're still finding out like who you are, you're like, and you have someone who's established, who knows who they are, who has lived more life than you, and that person, you know, I feel like that older person can sometimes, you know, take advantage of somebody who their brain isn't like all the way developed and just, you know. So I mean, I always wonder, like, what do these people have in common? But I could say that about like a 35-year-old and a 55-year-old. So I feel like once you're in your 30s, like that just like hump, like I feel like something changed for me when I reached 30. I feel like you just like, I don't know, it's like you have this new sense of confidence. You're like, you're just, I don't know, you're much more well established and you've been in the workforce longer and everything.
The
and
prefrontal cortex is like fully developed.
Yeah, and you've learned a lot of like life lessons. So
I've said this to a few people, like my 30s so far has been like way better than my 20s like ever was. Like I know a lot of people romanticize their 20s, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm 30, flirty, I'm thriving. Like
20s is fun, but it's like as fun as it is as bad as it is. Like you have really high highs and really low lows.
I can't believe she's 23 years old, engaged to a 41-year-old.
Yeah, like I feel like in your 20s is your time to like really live out like your first times as like an adult. Like you're not usually in school anymore. Like you are making your way in the adult world, in the workforce, all that stuff. And there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of mistakes to be made and everything. And when you're in your 40s, you've already been through that.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's had so much life experience. You know, they're not on an even playing field no matter what. Like, no matter what he says, like, she's really mature for her age, which I hate. If you have to say that, maybe just.
It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's probably not true. And you want it to be true. So you're telling us that.
And she's not even. Like, she truly isn't. She's been messy in the past. Like, so a little bit going to his podcast, like I said, it's his way to air out his grievances. He's always trying to get the last word on people. You know, he's used it as a platform to clap back at other contestants. Like he's known for getting into fight with like newer contestants, like Katie Thurston. I don't know if you remember or if you watched her season. She was a bachelorette. They're currently in a feud. His girlfriend, Natalie, she read she read a text message thread between Nick and Katie, and Natalie read it out loud and like spilled the tea on it, and so he gets her to get involved in his drama.
Yeah, they're both messy together.
Well, she's a 23-year-old, so I'm always going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Nick,
true. You should know better.
So Call Her Daddy is a very famous podcast, as I'm sure you know. The first joint couple episode to ever be done was Natalie and Nick, which is so wild to me. I'm like, why? They don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And on that episode, he talks about how he met Natalie. They met on Instagram DMs. She actually like slid into his DMs. And they were like in a hookup, friends with benefits situation for a while. And she had asked him, will you be my boyfriend? Like, will we be in a relationship? And he had said no, and he turned her down. And she asked him like about 3 times. And then finally by the 3rd time, he said, okay.
Wow.
And now they're engaged.
Wow.
That looks like a 23-year-old engaged. Which, I mean, she is. And I'm happy for her that she secured the ring. But I'm like.
And you know what really dates her and dates us? Style of dress she's wearing. That's the style of dress I wore to a middle school dance. And I've noticed that they are popular again.
Yeah.
And popular with the Gen Zs because the Gen Zs weren't alive. Yeah, they weren't alive when it's like that droopy like neck with like more fabric. I wore a dress just like that. Like I see them now and I'm like, you weren't even alive when I was wearing it. And she wasn't alive when we were wearing that. And I'm like, that makes you seem so young.
That's
like
what
bottle
weirds me
caps,
out.
Her earrings, like from a soda bottle.
They do look that. Yeah, they do. But that's like what weirds me out. I'm like, Nick, you have to think about this. When your formative years, your bride to be was not alive.
Yeah.
You were 18 years old. If you were 18 years old and someone handed you this infant and was like, that's going to be your bride, what would you think?
I know.
You would be disgusted. Think about that.
I know. Yeah.
So the Viall Files has recently gone through a rebrand, which I mean, I'm all for, and I'm sure you are too. You're into marketing and like social media.
We love a rebrand.
Yeah, we love a rebrand. I mean, I'm not criticizing. People have made fun of him online because people feel like he just kind of ripped off Call Her Daddy, and that he's sort of like ripping off the Vanity Fair logo and sort of like the color schemes that they usually use. But I'm like, I think I like a rebrand. But yeah, I do see him kind of like directly ripping off Call Her Daddy. And it was funny because he did this rebrand almost immediately after showing up on her episode.
I mean, I like his more with the green wall. Call Her Daddy looks like it's in a hotel room. They're making part of the background the window, the curtains of the window. I guess he's the back of him is on the curtain, but I don't know. It's like they have that statement wall, that green wall that I really like.
Yeah, and he has like this marble round table. It's really nice, and he has like some coffee books on here.
But it's like the low coffee table stone and then the low couches. Yeah,
I mean, it's an interesting setup. I like the rebrand. I know a lot of people have made fun of him, but I'm for it, you know.
Yeah.
People just like to make fun of him because it's Nick. Like, we just can't. And that's the end. That's what I have for you. So what are your thoughts? What do you think, Mr. Nick?
I just think he likes to be messy. He likes attention. He's cocky. He's a perfect fit for the Bachelor Nation. Like,
Bachelor Nation.
Perfect fit. Producers love him. That's why he's gotten so many, been on so many seasons and stuff. But it'll be interesting to see like what he does with the rest of like
his career,
his life. Like it's like you can't be on any more Bachelor shows. I feel like the next thing that would get him in the news would be his divorce from his young wife.
That's what I was gonna tell you. Do you think they'll even walk down the aisle?
I don't know. How long have they been together?
I think about a year, and they've been living together too for like a year.
Yeah.
So they might actually walk down the aisle.
But I feel like it's going to be one of those that in a couple of years we're going to see they've gotten divorced, and then he can have a whole new drama thing to talk about on his podcast, because it's like, when you have that fame, me talking like I freaking know, I don't know, but you're up so high, and like for it to drop, not even that like people don't like you anymore, but it's like there's nothing else. Like, yeah, you have this podcast, but like what else is there out of you? The years are going to go on, and you were on The Bachelor so long ago now. No one's even going to know who you are. So I feel like they're going to get married, and then he's probably going to think, well, if he wants to divorce, like, well, that'll be a good thing to get me back in the spotlight, get me back in like the news and stuff. Because I feel like once you've reached that high, like you want to stay there. You don't want to dip. And I see him just dipping, because it's like, what new are you doing? Like, you're gonna have your core fans who've always liked you and who's gonna listen to your podcast, but like, what else? Like, he's either gonna be on like another reality show, or I don't know.
Well, some of the things that I've noticed that he does to stay relevant, and like I said, he starts up drama with contestants that are currently coming out on shows, and it's like he knows how to stay relevant. He'll like get into fights with people who have been in more recent seasons. I'm like, I don't think he even gives a shit. I think he just wants to be talked about. And
that's probably what he's going to keep doing, is just creating drama, because you gotta stay
relevant.
In that.
And one of the things that he does is so this girl right here, this is Raven from Love is Blind. So that's what I've noticed that he does. He has started to interview and branch out to talking with other contestants from other reality shows. And I think he has kind of found a niche for himself in that.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of like the podcaster you go to if you're on a reality show. Well, that's good. Yeah.
I think he needs to quit with the relationship advice. Like, he keeps trying to make his podcast a relationship advice podcast. And I'm like, sweetie, it does not work. First of all, you have no like leg to stand on. Like, you're the last person I'd ever want to have like fucking relationship advice from. Here, right here, I don't know if you could see. It's a book that he wrote, and it's called Don't Text Your Ex Happy Birthday. It was not a bestseller. Andy Dorfman's was #1 New York Times bestseller.
Wow.
His did not.
Yeah, he needs to just stick to interviewing people on reality TV shows. There's so many reality TV shows. Like, and it's like, that's what he's an expert in, is being on a reality TV show. He's not an expert at love. If anything, he has failed at love a lot more than most of us. And
he needs to stick to that. And because he has tried to branch out, and he's like, I'm just gonna be like a relationship expert, and I want to try acting, and neither one of those works. But when he sticks to the reality TV thing, which I know he's tried to fight it, that's, I feel like, what works for him, and I think he needs to lean into that. And come to terms. It's like, you're a reality TV star, babe.
It's nothing more than that.
So what do you feel like he's like played into any of the stereotypes of Libras and Geminis?
Yeah, I mean, just with like Libras and love and being indecisive. I mean, literally. I mean, I guess he's had more people be not indecisive about him, but like he, you know, the first two seasons he's Bachelorette, so they were choosing him. But yeah.
You know what I thought it was funny about that? I felt like he was better at being a contestant than being a lead.
Yeah.
I felt like he was so good at being a contestant because he got so far and he got that camera time and he made those storylines. But when he was the lead, I didn't feel that same level of, I don't know, power or something that he had.
Yeah, I feel like when you're the lead, like you can't be starting drama. Like when you're the lead, you're like, you have to be like neutral. Everybody's starting drama around you. And you have to be like, oh, okay. But when you're a contestant, then you can stir up
the pot. So yeah, that's Nick Viall. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
The lore of Nick Viall.
The lore of Nick Viall.
To watch the video version of this podcast, search The Scandalicious Podcast on YouTube.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Scandalicious Podcast.
If you have an episode suggestion, our email is in the show notes.
Thanks for listening.